Why did I ever go to this thing? I know less about it than I did to begin with. There are still things up in the air about Cambridge Blue. I don't know if we'll ever settle all of this. It's kind of a problem. Um, we're not sure what they were up to with the Blues, but as I go, I'll try to explain what we think happened, but we're not sure. The first Blue in Cambridge was called Turquoise and came out in 1902, and it was all old molds that the National had brought from their other plants. So some of this stuff is very, very hard to prove and very, very hard to tell. Cambridge's turquoise is a stronger blue than other companies' blue, and that's one way to help you. This is a Saratoga hat, which changed form several times. Originally, it had a pulled-down brim and had rings on the top. Later on, they left the brim flat and took the rings off. There is one little circle on the very bottom middle of this piece that is different from all the ones that we know not to be Cambridge. Here is the neat little salt and pepper, and of course the tray is very, very rare. And this is the Nursery Rhymes or Red Riding Hood Punch Bowl. This was for a child to play with. There would be a bowl and 6 cups. It's very high quality flint glass. Some of these were made by National at other plants. And my purely conjecture is that the darker ones are Cambridge and that the lighter blue ones are not. Yes? Uh-huh. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. In several sizes. Yeah, if you want to ask a question or something, get Frank to get the microphone to you. This is an incredibly rare. I've been waiting 50 years to buy this lamp from a Welker. This is the Duchess miniature lamp in turquoise. It comes in other colors, but it's exceptionally rare in this color. We've had a cracked shade in the museum for quite a long time. This was for a child to carry to the room at night. Oil. Next color, which we think came out someplace between 1912 and 1915 and was carried into the early to mid-20s, was what Cambridge called cobalt, not royal blue. They called it cobalt. This is a wide optic lemonade jug and a blown paste mold vase and a pound candy jar that has an optic inside of it, and a blown perfume bottle, the gold laurel etching on it, and the sweetest little pulled ribbed, what they called a swung vase. This one has a really early Cambridge label on it. Swung. These started out about that big, and they took a pair of tongs and swung it, and it just pulled itself. And they made these as big as 42 inches tall. A big one would have been made out of like a jardinier-shaped piece, and they just clamped tongs on a Marie and just started swinging it, and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger, thinned out and longer. Here is the same salt and pepper as the turquoise in the early cobalt. These are called Queen, aren't they? Queen is the name of the pattern. Beautiful flowers. Azurite came out in 22. We had the program before on opaque, so we really are not going to dwell on azurite. Azurite was made primarily in round and plain wear, seldom in a pattern. Tonight we have a beautiful covered sugar and creamer in Chelsea. I missed that auction. You're welcome, Richie. Here's a neat little tumbler in Chelsea. There were very few patterns in azurite. The ram's head comes to mind, And there is a very strange compote, very reminiscent of this pattern in azurite. But azurite was not a color that came in pressed patterns. Here's an example of a plainware table piece, which is rather unusual to see azurite stemware. Azurite was used a lot for decorating. Here's a beautiful vase with Nanking green enamel filled in peacocks. And here is an early soap dish in azurite. Not a lot of talk about azurite. It was a major color. You see a lot of it in the museum, and we had a lot of it for our opaque show. So we decided not to display a whole lot of it tonight. Dave Rankin brought some trade journal inserts and an invoice telling about blues. And the first blue, which we called Blue 1 for years, fluoresces like crazy when you turn a black light on it. It must have a little bit of uranium salt in it. It turns green, just green as green could be. This next color is that color. There is a strong possibility this was originally called Aurora Blue. And it came out in the 23-24 era. It was very, very, very short-lived. There are very few patterns. This is really the only molded pattern that we know of, and it only comes in a bowl. And then Chelsea, which is a fairly early pattern for colored Cambridge. Seldom ever see anything in this. As you can see on the table, it gathers color the thicker it is. This sugar shaker is blown and quite thin, whereas this Buddha is extremely thick. So it gets darker because it gathers color. It's a little hard to tell sometimes because there is a variation in the blue. Most of what you see are plainware bowls and candlesticks and compotes. This one having a cutting on it. And then pound candy jars with the wide optic, a plain one, and a cut one. And these are generally signed in the lid. Yep, nice big fat signature. This is a very, very unusual blown piece. It's a blown covered pitcher with the Mahjong etching on it. Mahjong tiles done in gold. Beautiful piece. Very, very few decorations on this color. Very, very unusual piece of stemware. And a mayonnaise ladle. And a keg. And the interesting thing about this keg is it came in with these glasses, which are the other blue. And when we blacklight them, you could tell the difference. The Stratford Dolphin candlesticks, which I did not realize tonight there are two blues in these. The little favor basket with a rope handle. Comes with a plain handle also. So this came out around 23-24, and we called it Blue 1 for years. And from this trade journal advertising, we're deciding that it probably is Aurora Blue. Okay. Now, where the confusion really starts is with what we used to call Blue 2. It does not fluoresce. It apparently came out in 25, and there is a very strong possibility Cambridge called it Night Blue. And it's just really, really hard to see the difference unless you put two of them together. But I guess Blue 2 is a little more blue. It's a little purer blue than the other. This is an ice bucket, ice tub. Blown marmalade, which has to be very unusual. And a pound candy jar. This is the half pound with the wide optic. And a powder jar. And the twist candlesticks, but they are not common in this color. This is a twist. This is the ring and wafer candlestick. Very, very, very unusual temple jar. It's been etched in reverse. All the background's been etched, and it leaves the flowers. A member from Texas called and said, I can't find the top and bottom of a temple jar. Do you think the museum wants it? And I said, well, what color is it? She said, well, it's blue. And I said, well, we don't have a blue and sent it. And this is what came. It's beautiful. Of course, the dolphin. Very unusual to see the community stand lamp in blue. And this one has been drilled, as have most of them, for an electric lamp. That was done at the plant. Another covered jug, and it carries the same lid as this style. They use this lid on quite a few things. It also goes on a Rubina pitcher sometimes. Two wonderful cylinder vases in the classic golden crusted etching. And the little barrel whiskeys that were sold with the keg, even though they're two blue colors. Neither one of these colors lasted more than a few years, and we're not sure what they were up to. It's sort of strange because they had cobalt, so it wasn't like they were hunting the cobalt formula. They were able to make cobalt, that's obvious. So why they went to these other shades and it didn't make them very long is just going to be conjecture. I mean, I don't think we're ever going to settle this, probably. In the area of 2526, they came out with another blue, which they originally called Bluebell. The old workers called it Ritz Blue. I don't know if they were right or wrong. We do know Bluebell to be a correct name, at least for part of the color. The unfortunate thing is there are two formulas of Bluebell, and if you look in the museum down on the Bluebell shelf, you can obviously see there's two colors in there. I always thought there were two formulas, one for pressed and one for blown. These pieces are the one formula. All of these blown 3077 items, a goblet, a tea, a footed tumbler, a cocktail, sherbet with Rosalie, and a footed juice. Unfortunately, that whole theory just all falls apart because here's a decagon plate in the same color, and here's a cheese and cracker set in the same color that are pressed. So that theory about this formula for pressed and this formula for blown just poke holes in it. So I don't know. Again, another problem with this color is it gathers. So if you look at this beautiful 13-inch draped lady, which is the same formula as this candlestick, you can see, there's a big difference in color. And I'm not sure we're ever going to answer this one way or the other. I just think it's easier to call it all Bluebell and forget about it. But you have to make that decision as a collector. Wonderful turkeys in Bluebell. The strange thing is this is the easiest color in the turkey, not in the satin finish, of course. But why a blue turkey would have been the best seller is very odd. But why were there blue ladies? So here's a two-bun geisha figurine. Cambridge did sell these. They're in the 27 catalog as figurines, as well as the elusive flower frog. This one is screwed into an ivory base. Again, the two-bun. They also made the one-bun. This is a piece that Richie dug, and it's a what's-it. I am convinced it's an inkwell. And it had one of those rollers in here with the lid attached to the roller and you just flipped it back. But this is just Lynn's guess. If anybody comes up with a better idea, I don't know. It's definitely not a bird feeder. This is a very, very, very rare willow etched bluebell sugar and creamer in roundware. This belonged to Janice Hughes. I know a lot of you remember Janice as our longtime secretary. Those were her favorite pieces. A Weatherford bowl in bluebell. Surprisingly, you see quite a bit of Weatherford in bluebell, primarily the berry set. This is what I call the beehive perfume. And bluebell has a beehive-shaped stopper. And also a very pretty bluebell dresser compact with a cut lid. Has a patent pending mark on it. It's for lipsticks, rouge, and powder. Was a patented idea by Cambridge. Here's a bluebell prism sign. And very, very hard to find, a bluebell place card. You wrote your name on this frosted piece in a pencil, and then you could erase it right off of it. Don't see much bluebell satin finished, and look at the difference in color between this and this. This formula portrays a little green tint that this does not. This is a super wonderful Rockwell decorated jar. I have found out not too long ago that the Cambridge called these spice jars. And this has a Rockwell silver and orange enamel around the edge. Okay, did I hit all the bluebell? Yes, sir. Oh, the perfume. Yeah, this is a blue that we're not sure about yet. This is a finish. It's an enamel finish, and we think maybe this is what they called sky blue. We're still not sure about this. It's a DeVilbiss perfume made for DeVilbiss, and it has a DeVilbiss mark on the bottom. Of course, the fittings are DeVilbiss. But this perfume page showed up with all these weird colors on it. We're thinking maybe they're enamels. And if they are, this is probably sky blue, which is a finish, not an actual color. Okay, here's where we really have a problem. See, for years we thought this color was this color. And then invoices started showing up. And an invoice showed up showing Decagon in Mount Vernon in Aurora blue, 1930, 1931. And this creates all kinds of problems because that's Aurora blue. And suddenly, here we have another one. Now, some people think it's Ritz blue. I never bought that. The old workers called this Ritz blue. And this predates this. We know that because it comes in Mount Vernon. And it is moving in on a cobalt. It's what the old collectors used to call cornflower blue, this sort of color. But it's all Decagon pieces mostly, but there are Mount Vernon items. And this question may never be answered. You know, whether this is Ritz or Aurora or Blue 3. I guess you'll have to make your own decision. The next color, one of the most prolific colors, came out in the late 20s, called willow blue. Anything to do with willow was just really popular in the 2030s. The blue willow etching, the blue willow china. Some people think that it was later renamed Eleanor blue after Eleanor Roosevelt. I have never bought that. There is a possibility it may be Eleanor blue, but I don't think it was named after Eleanor Roosevelt because I think it predates when her husband was elected. There are two formulas of willow, Eleanor blue. I'm not going to go into that. It's such a fine line of difference that it's hard to see and hard to prove. but it was a popular pattern in the late 20s and up through the 30s when all the major etchings were coming out, like Elaine. Not that it's common on Elaine, it's not. You see it more often in Diane and Gloria. What a wonderful piece. This tilt ball jug covered candy. Another piece of Diane, 3400 7-inch covered candy. Cleo was probably the most prolific pattern in Willow Blue. That's not a common candy. That's kind of cool. Very, very unusual. Valencia 3500 line compote. That's really nice. An Aero optic vase. This color came out when they were just really starting to decorate. And this has, we call this the Farber cutting because this was done for the Farber company. We don't think the cutting was done at Cambridge. It's a cocktail shaker. Here is a vase. This is not a cocktail shaker in Rosalie. Cocktail shakers are ground in, and they have a stoppered chrome and cork piece that the pressure's in there. Here is a goblet with a gray cutting on it, not a Cambridge cutting. 3077, an unusual cigarette torchere in 3500 in all light willow blue. Everglades, there's quite a bit of Everglades. I'm trying to hit the press patterns that each color was made in. Unusual egg cup. Big egg, little egg. Novelty basket. These are always signed. There are 4 shapes. Hunt scene. You do not see a lot of blue hunt scene. They just didn't run much of it. It's kind of strange, but they didn't. Modern, which was a restaurant line. It's a little sherbet. Some of this is signed. Here's also an individual sugar and creamer in that. 3500 line Ram's Head candlestick in willow. And the powder or puff jar in tilt, 3400 in Gloria. The interesting thing about this stuff is they etched this so the pattern always meets. The stems and the leaves and the flower petals, even though they may not all be on the top or the bottom, you can always line them up and they meet. Exactly. Very unusual piece of Martha Washington. This comes in willow and moonlight both. So this is sort of a judgment call as to which it is. I did miss this. This is something you seldom ever see on this blue is Cleo. Pretty. Pretty, pretty, pretty. And the little cigarette holder set. One of the ashtrays makes the lid. Pretty cool. Very reminiscent of Heisey Ridgely. Somebody copied somebody. I hit all the willow? Yeah. Excuse me? Oh my gosh, how did I miss that? Is this my prize? Oh, okay. Golf Scene Ice Bucket. Boy, now there's a rare etching on light blue. That is a rare, rare etching to see on this color. Is that it? Okay. Two kid. How I missed. And a flip bowl with hunt scene on it. Two kid. Rare. Rare, 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 rare on willow. And turkey. Really hard to find. Really, really hard to find. No, no, sir. Oh, the flower frog was made in moonlight. The turkey was not made in moonlight. No, sir. Royal Blue, probably one of the longer-lived blues for Cambridge. Absolutely one of the most successful colors. They obviously knew how to make it from 1915 to 1920, and they brought it back out in 31. Just a gorgeous, gorgeous color. Really lends itself to decorating. Beautiful silver overlay vase with the swans on it. And beautiful Gloria, gold encrusted. Ugh, gorgeous. And Japonica. The only blue that Japonica comes on. Tilt ivy ball. And a candlestick, which belongs to the museum and has a real cool Cambridge label on the bottom. It says 628 candlestick, Hawthorne, $30. Hawthorne was what they renamed Japonica after there was so much animosity with Japan. People thought the word Japonica sounded like Japan, so they renamed it Hawthorne. And a gold silk screen on 3500 royal blue. And a great 3400 decanter with what I call the drum silver. It makes me think of a drum. Pretty. Royal blue was made in just about every pressed line and blown line that they did at this point. Aero Optic, 3500 line. This is unusual because of the colored Beaubochet. Somebody asked me about the locking system. Some of them turn and lock real good, and others just sit on them. They always carry a 4-lock Beaubochet anyway. Spiral or twist tumbler. Royal blue lent itself to being applied to crystal. There's a tally-ho punch cup and the larger size 3500 line basket. And we have a 3500 line relish with a royal blue handle. And a Pousse Cafe, cut flute Pousse Cafe with a royal blue foot. And they did a lot of color mixing in the 30s. Here's a royal blue 3400 saucer with a crystal cup. They did a lot of this royal blue crystal mix, and they did a lot of ebony crystal mix. Caprice, which was actually made for Farber, even though it did not carry a Farber holder. Another neat decoration, Lorna on royal blue. You seldom ever see this ball top tumbler. And a plain ball top tumbler. Here's a great little rooster muddler. These are hard to find in all color. And a calla lily vase in royal blue, which could fit in a crystal Everglades candlestick. And speaking of Everglades, they didn't do much in royal blue, but here's the little leaves vase in royal blue satin. It's pretty in satin finish. 3-inch swan that we know of. This is the only size of royal blue swan. This is a style 2, will be signed. Keep hearing about an 8-inch one, but nobody's ever seen it. Small globe vase or rose bowl. Nudes. We can't neglect nudes. They made every size of nude in royal blue. And Mike brought a series of interesting coasters. This one has the grid, and this one has a star or pinwheel on it. And this one has a pinwheel on it also. The only thing they did in melon was the decanter and the 2.5 ounce whiskey. Cabinet flask, 3400 line. Carries a Nautilus stopper. This is correct. Hyacinth vase to plant 4 hyacinth bulbs in the top. 3500 line Gadroon ram's head bowl. Hard to find in royal blue. And seashell. You see very little seashell in royal blue. Great piece. Signed real plainly up in here. Another royal blue Caprice. And the royal blue Caprice / Mount Vernon 1338. with the Mount Vernon design under the candle cups. A couple other nice Mount Vernon things. Compote. And the cigarette holder with the ashtray foot. Carries a 1066 stem. The top hat ashtray now has a flat top in royal blue. Triple candlestick. Okay, now stemware. It's obvious stemware with a big item in royal blue. Pilsner glasses. This one has cut punties all over it. Some of these had pressed punties. I don't know if they've recut them or they've just cut a plain one. I'm not sure. 7966 with a royal blue foot and 7966 all royal blue. Jefferson, 1401 Jefferson in royal blue. And, oh, this is fabulous. All royal blue. This is a rarity to see the stem royal blue, etched in apple blossom. It's quite a combination. And then the same goblet, 3126. And 1402 100 tally-ho. 3122, we call it Diane stem. 3077, the stem that Cleo comes on. This will come in royal blue as well as this blue. Nautilus, 3450. 1402 pressed tally-ho. Comes in a variety of sizes. I think this is the 14 ounce. Mount Vernon. Early Martha Washington. This is a hard line to find. Don't see much of this. Nautilus in crystal with the royal blue foot. This is a wine. Let's see. This is a strange little tumbler. In this color, it would be part of 1066 of all things. Doesn't look like 1066. Here is a wine in 1066. And a goblet in 3103. And a goblet in pressed rose point. And a very elusive sherry in 1066. And did I miss a stem? Guess not. I see a few things I did miss. Little urn vase. This is a mold that comes in Caprice, but not in royal blue, unfortunately. 3112, you're right. Here it is. This is the one that they made with the royal blue foot and the royal blue top, and I don't know why they didn't do this in other colors, because it's a great combination. The interesting thing is it's the same bowl as pressed rose point. Same bowl. A 3400 Stein. This is a small size. This is a 10. There's 3 sizes of this. What did I miss? Star candlesticks. Very, very hard to find the little star candlesticks in royal blue. Very hard. They come in the bigger size too. In royal blue. Did I miss any royal blue? Oh my gosh. The Martha Washington urn vase, what a great piece. And of course the Palliser floor vase. I don't know, how did I walk over that? What a great piece. What a great piece. Moonlight Blue came out in 36, was designed for Caprice. We had a pretty healthy Caprice program, so we're not really going to talk a lot about Caprice. Came in Alpine or plain, and lovely, decorated with irises and butterflies, compote, and a pressed goblet. Our focus really is moonlight. 2 Alpine candlesticks in Caprice. Wonderful. Oh, we're in the wrong spot. These are willow blue with apple blossom. These go down there. Okay, Moonlight Blue. Jefferson Iced Tea. Stradivarius. A lot of Moonlight Blue was used in Harlequin sets of 8 colors, in the nudes, and in Stratford or in Stradivari. Here's a larger star candlestick in Moonlight. Get your hand off that, Lynn. Very, very, very rare. Early Style 3 Swan, signed, no feather detail. Wings have not been flared, neck is not turned. Excuse me? Style 3. This is Style 3 Swan. No feather detail. Came out in 39. It's in the 39 price list. He was saying Style 2. Style 2 is the 3-inch swan only with the long wing. This is early Style 3 is what this is. Also comes in the Swan Punch Bowl. Also. And at that time, on that 39 price list, they didn't list it as a punch bowl. They listed it as a goldfish bowl, and there were no mugs to go or base to go with it. There are Style 3, early Style 3 6-inch swans too. Crackle. This would be late. Sherry decanter. This would be late. As would be a peg nappy, and they made vases for the Cambridge Arms. That I know of, they did not make the arm in Moonlight. This is a very, very late pattern called Modern. No E on the end like modern. This is modern. Unusual slant ashtray with a sand carving. The sand carvings were done by an itinerant worker that went from plant to plant to plant. He worked at Duncan, Fostoria, Tiffin, Heisey, and Cambridge. Gyro Optic was the whole line of Gyro Optic was made in Moonlight. Very late, but very rare, Cascade. I only know a couple, 3 pieces in Cascade Moonlight. And equally rare, Blue Danube. It's a 3790 goblet with a cutting on it. And they called the whole thing Blue Danube with a cut. Very hard to find. Late pinball vases, decanters. There's 2 styles of them, both in Celestial. Short style carries this stopper. Tall style carries the Hershey's Kiss stopper. And 2 vases, both with super rare etchings. This one is in the Cambridge Etchings book. It's quite unusual. Flowers and Scrolls. And this one has the Prince of Wales plumes etching mounted on top of a crown. Quite rare. 37, Windsor Blue. What'd I miss? Oh, gee, Christmas. Flying Lady Bowl. Probably one of the rarest things there is in Moonlight Blue. See, I walked over this. I walked over this. Very, very hard to find. Great piece. Great piece. Windsor Blue 37, made in honor of the Duke of Windsor abdicating. It's primarily only seashell. We have the nude seashell compote. Candlestick. This one has the polished top. The factory did do that. And the Flying Lady Bowl. What a beautiful piece. Windsor Blue does vary. Unfortunately, we didn't bring a dark piece tonight. There are some pieces that are dark. The shell-covered candy tends to be dark. The sticks tend to be darker. This is a nice paler one that really matches the bowl. They usually do not. I don't know if they had trouble controlling the color or what the problem was. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's real translucent. This one's signed up here. Yeah, quite often the nude compote is dark, much darker. It's hard to find it in matching color. I think they had a lot of trouble with it. Tahoe Blue came out 4041. Very hard to find shell bowl. And again, part of the Harlequin sets. A nude brandy. and a 12-ounce tumbler, and the 14-ounce tumbler, which is no longer a part of 1066 like it was in Royal Blue. It's now called 7801. The bunny boxes are Tahoe. They really are not Bluebell. Satin finish, very, very hard to find satin finished one. Did these in amber also. Very unusual, pristine ball candlestick in Tahoe. And the pencil dog. And somebody said, well, how do you know it's Bluebell? How do you know it's not Bluebell? And as far as I know, all of the pencil dogs are Tahoe. And they have, if they have a label, it's going to be a foil label, which is later. And if you look at it, the early pencil dogs are not fire polished much. You can really see the teeth, and the eyes are really plain. The later ones, they fire polish them a lot. The teeth are almost gone, and the eyes are real smooth. How do you tell Tahoe from Bluebell? I think it's the same formula. When the mold was being made. If it's a nude, it's Tahoe. If it's a geisha, it's Bluebell. Have to go on the mold. Real unusual 3700 tall sherbet. And probably the rarest of the rare, as Richie would say. The controlled bubble. And this is Tahoe blue plated with opal inside with controlled bubble. I only know of 4 pieces of blue. And then I know of 5 pieces of white overlay with a controlled bubble. These have all belonged to plant officials. The president, the treasurer. I've never heard of a piece of this out loose amongst the workers. So it must have been an expensive little experiment or something, because it all went to the plant officials. Made later on, but obviously probably using Tahoe blue cullet, is Blue Cloud, iced tea, and sherbet. These are of the reopening period, as is the Mardi Gras all blue triangular vase. Quite rare. That's the end of what we would call the production Cambridge Blues. We've got some experimentals down here. This is a shell bowl in what we call Frank's Blue, because Frank found the first piece. The surprise is that there are quite a few of these shell bowls in this color, which is weird to experiment in something with this size to it. We also have a small shell plate. They used a lot of seashell and a lot of 3400 to experiment. And here is the soap dish in the same color. This color was made more than one time. It was experimented several times. Here is a weaker blue. This is an individual demi saucer. I know of 4 of these. No cups, just saucers. The other line that they did a lot of experimentation with was 3400. And I call it powder blue for lack of knowing what the color is. A cup and saucer and a sugar. There's more of this in the museum if you want to see. We didn't bring all the experimental blues. Very unusual ball creamer with applied blue handle. And another experimental blue, again in seashell. My conjecture is this may be a batch of incredibly dark Windsor blue. That's a guess. That's a guess, but there's been enough of them show up that's possible. And this, what's it? We have no clue what this was. My guess is it was experimentation for Windsor blue, and I think it's burnt. It has a charcoal colored finish on it. I'm not sure. I've seen 2 pieces of Crown Tuscan made the same way, a covered shell and a 3-inch swan. We still aren't sure what this is, whether it's a finish or it's burnt glass. Did I miss anything? Questions? Questions? Yes, ma'am. The cobalt. was discontinued during the war completely, and it never came back into the line because of the war. That's the only color I know of that the war affected. Was this royal blue? No, I think they were trying to hit on a blue that sold well, and they kept coming up with another blue, and it didn't sell real good, so they tried another blue. Is the only thing I can figure. I mean, at first, there was a time when we thought it was a progression of blues towards royal blue, but that really doesn't hold water because there's royal blue down there in 1915. So they knew how to make royal blue. Yes, sir. Anybody questions? Anybody questions? Did I totally confuse everybody completely? I hope not. I knew Richie would say yes. But Richie's been confused as long as I've known him, so, I mean, why not? Want to try the black light? Sure. Want to see what the black light does to this?
Well, they're getting that. You were talking about the progression to get one to sell. If you read that, some of the narrative in that circular letter that announced Ritz Blue, they said it's been selling well in New England.
In New England.
So they must have finally found the color.
Found a color.
That would sell.
Yeah, I really think of all the colors, the Bluebell or whatever was probably the best seller. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. Frank's going to do a little blacklight thing here and show you. Let's just do these two guys. We're getting a little bit out of this one. Now let me bring another piece of this down here. Let's bring the lamp down, see what it does. Oh, it goes green. This isn't working. We'll try one more. Oh, it's going green too. The whole thing just fell apart. The closer you get it to it, the more of the green comes out of it. Let's try this dark and see what happens to it. Zippity-doo-dah. Good. Good. Yeah. Ivory goes nuts. But look what that does. It just almost goes opaque. Yeah. Yeah, look at that. Looks like primrose. Look what it does. We're still not sure what this proves, one way or the other. Because they used to say, oh, you can tell an imperial animal from a Heisey animal because the Heisey animal's blacklight. Well, that whole thing just fell apart completely. It doesn't work. Yeah, those go nuts. Wow. Yeah. I don't think the Bluebell does anything, does it? I got it. Oh, yes, it does.
But not to the extent. I mean, by
No,
rights,
not like that.
by rights, it should be,
It's still doing something, though. It's still doing something. Wow. Yep. Yep. Interesting.
okay, light.
Interesting. Other questions? Want to thank Frank Wallenhaupt, Mike Strebler, Larry Everett, and Susan, and Vicki, Lisa, and Mike, Greg Voss, David Ray, Rich Bennett. Who'd I miss? Oh, Jack and Elaine, and the Finleys for bringing wonderful Bluebell figurals. Thank you, everybody, for coming such a long distance and bringing your glass. We really, really appreciate you doing it.